Act 1. The Girl in the Golden Cage. Vatican City. It is the smallest independent state in the world, a 100-acre walled enclave nestled in the heart of Rome. It is a place of immense power, profound faith, and deep, impenetrable secrecy. For the billions of Catholics worldwide, it is the heart of their religion. For the few hundred people who are its citizens, it is simply home. To grow up inside the Vatican is to live in a golden cage, a world of ancient traditions, sacred rituals, and unspoken rules, protected from the chaos of the outside world. This was the world of Emanuela Orlandi. Born in 1968, Emanuela was the fourth of 5 children of Ercole and Maria Orlandi. Her father was a lay employee of the Holy See, a clerk in the prefecture of the papal household. The Orlandi family lived a simple, happy life inside the Vatican walls. Emanuela was a bright, talented, and deeply religious girl. Her passion was music. She was a gifted flutist who attended a prestigious music school in Rome. Her life was a sheltered one, a predictable rhythm of family, faith, and music. She was a Vatican girl, seemingly untouchable by the dangers of the world that lay just beyond the ancient walls. The day of June 22, 1983, began like any other. It was a hot Roman afternoon. 15-year-old Emanuela was running late for her flute lesson. She was a responsible girl, and being late was unusual for her. She had a brief argument with her brother Pietro, asking him to accompany her, but he was busy and declined, a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. After her lesson, Emanuela called home from a public phone. She sounded excited. She told her sister that a man had approached her with a lucrative job offer, representing the famous cosmetics company, Avon. The man offered her an astronomical sum for just a few hours of work distributing flyers at a fashion show. Her sister, sensing something was amiss, told her to come home first to discuss it with their parents. Emanuela agreed. She said, "I'll be home in a bit." That was the last time her family ever heard her voice. Emanuela Orlandi stepped out of the music school into the bustling streets of Rome and vanished. The girl from the golden cage had been swallowed by the outside world. Act 2. The Vanishing. As the hours turned into a long, anxious night, the Orlandi family's concern grew into panic. Emanuela was not the kind of girl to stay out without permission. Her father, using his connections within the Vatican, tried to get the Italian police to act swiftly, but they were initially dismissive. A teenage girl running late, they suggested, had likely just gone off with friends. They insisted on waiting 24 hours before filing a missing persons report. For the Orlandi family, this bureaucratic delay was the beginning of an agonizing nightmare. The family took matters into their own hands. Along with Emanuela's friends, they plastered thousands of posters with her smiling face all over Rome. The posters listed 3 different contact numbers, including one for the Vatican's security office. The Italian media picked up the story, and soon, the face of the missing Vatican girl was everywhere. The public was captivated by the mystery of the innocent girl who had disappeared from the shadow of St. Peter's Basilica. Then, the phone calls began. Days after her disappearance, the family and the Vatican began receiving a flood of calls from people claiming to have seen Emanuela or to have information. The calls were strange and often contradictory, creating a fog of confusion. But soon, a more distinct and chilling voice emerged. A man with a calm demeanor and a slight American accent, who the media would nickname L'Americano, began to call. He claimed to be holding Emanuela captive. To prove it, he played a recording of a girl's voice, though the Orlandi family could not definitively identify it as Emanuela's. The mystery deepened. This was no longer just a missing persons case. It was a kidnapping. The question was, who were the kidnappers, and what did they want? The answer would be more shocking and convoluted than anyone could ever imagine. Act 3. The Web of Conspiracy. On July 3, 1983, just over a week after Emanuela's disappearance, Pope John Paul II made a public appeal during his Sunday address. He spoke of the pain of the Orlandi family, officially confirming the kidnapping and bringing the case to the world stage. This papal intervention, meant to help, instead threw gasoline on the fire. The very next day, the kidnappers made their motives clear. A phone call from l'Americano to the Vatican laid out a stunning demand. They wanted the release of Mehmet Ali Agca, the Turkish militant who had attempted to assassinate Pope John Paul II in St. Peter's Square just 2 years earlier, in 1981. The kidnappers claimed to be part of the same organization as Agca. Suddenly, the disappearance of a 15-year-old music student was inextricably linked to one of the most significant political events of the decade. This demand plunged the investigation into the murky world of Cold War espionage. At the time, the prevailing theory behind the papal assassination attempt was the Bulgarian connection. It was widely believed that the KGB, the Soviet Union's intelligence agency, had used the Bulgarian Secret Service to hire Agca to kill the Polish Pope, fearing his influence would destabilize the communist bloc, particularly in his native Poland. The kidnappers' demand seemed to confirm this. Was Emanuela a pawn in a high-stakes game between the Vatican and the Soviet Union? Was she being held by KGB-backed operatives to silence the Vatican or as leverage? This theory gained more traction when a letter, allegedly from the kidnappers, was sent to a classmate of Emanuela's. It contained details only Emanuela would know. The Stasi, East Germany's infamous secret police, later produced files suggesting that they had orchestrated the kidnapping to retrieve sensitive documents they believed Agca had given to the Vatican. The case of the missing girl had become a tangled web of international conspiracy, with Emanuela caught in the middle. Act 4. The Gangster Secret. As the Cold War theory dominated headlines, another, darker theory began to fester within the criminal underworld of Rome. This theory did not involve spies and superpowers, but something closer to home. The city's most powerful and ruthless criminal organization, the Banda della Magliana. The gang controlled Rome's drug trade, gambling, and rackets throughout the 1970s and 80s, and they had deep, often violent, connections to Italian intelligence services and financial institutions. The theory centered on the gang's charismatic and dangerous leader, Enrico Renatino de Pitis. Years after the disappearance, a new narrative emerged. It was suggested that the Vatican Bank, officially known as the Institute for the Works of Religion, had borrowed a substantial amount of money from the Banda della Magliana to secretly fund the Solidarity movement in Poland, part of Pope John Paul II anti-communist crusade. When the Vatican allegedly failed to repay the loan, the gang kidnapped Emanuela Orlandi, the daughter of a Vatican employee, as a form of collateral, a stark message to the Holy See. This theory remained a rumor for years, until 2005, when an anonymous call to a television show provided a shocking clue. The caller stated that the secret to Emanuela's disappearance was buried in the tomb of Enrico de Pitis. The shocking part was where he was buried. Not in a common cemetery, but in the prestigious Basilica of Sant'Apollinare in Rome, an honor typically reserved for cardinals and popes. How did a notorious gangster receive such a burial? The claim was later corroborated by DePedis's own girlfriend, Sabrina Minardi. In a stunning testimony, she claimed that DePedis had orchestrated the kidnapping and that Emanuela had been killed, her body disposed of in a cement mixer. The Vatican, under immense public pressure, finally authorized the opening of the gangster's tomb in 2012. While Emanuela's body was not found inside, the very presence of a crime boss in a holy basilica lent a dark credibility to the story of a sinister pact between the mob and the church. Act 5. Whispers within the walls. While the world looked at the KGB and the Mafia for answers, a third, and perhaps most disturbing, set of theories pointed inward, suggesting the truth lay hidden behind the Vatican's own walls. These theories allege that Emanuela was not a victim of international politics or organized crime, but of corruption and sin within the Holy See itself. This line of inquiry was powerfully reignited by the Vatileaks scandal, which saw thousands of confidential Vatican documents leaked to the public. Among them were documents that seemed to detail Vatican expenses related to Emanuela Orlandi for years after her disappearance, suggesting they knew her whereabouts. The Vatican dismissed the documents as fakes, but they fueled the perception of a cover-up. Father Gabriele Amorth, the Vatican's chief exorcist for many years, gave a shocking interview before his death, claiming he believed Emanuela was kidnapped for a far darker purpose. He alleged she was taken to be used in sex parties held by Vatican clergy and foreign diplomats, and was later murdered to ensure her silence. This explosive theory suggested a level of internal corruption so profound that the institution would do anything to protect itself. The suspicion of an internal cover-up reached a fever pitch in 2019. The Orlandi family received an anonymous tip with a photo of an angel-topped tomb in the Vatican's Teutonic Cemetery, and the message, "Look where the angel is pointing." Convinced this was a clue to Emanuela's final resting place, the family petitioned the Vatican to open the tombs. In a rare move, the Vatican agreed. The world watched as the tombs of two 19th-century German princesses were opened. But inside, they found nothing. Not even the bones of the princesses. The tombs were completely empty. This bizarre discovery only deepened the mystery, leading to more questions than answers. The Vatican claimed the bones may have been moved during previous renovations, but for the Orlandi family and many observers, it felt like another dead end, another piece of a puzzle that the Vatican itself seemed determined to keep unsolved. Act 6. 40 Years of Silence. For over 40 years, the Orlandi family has lived in a state of perpetual agony. Their fight for the truth has been led by Emanuela's older brother, Pietro Orlandi. He has dedicated his entire adult life to finding his sister, becoming a relentless public figure, a thorn in the side of both the Italian state and the Vatican. He has followed every lead, challenged every lie, and held a public sit-in on every anniversary of her disappearance, ensuring that the world does not forget the face of his 15-year-old sister. The case has been opened and closed multiple times, a frustrating cycle of hope and disappointment. The release of the 2022 Netflix documentary, Vatican Girl, brought the story to a new global generation, renewing public pressure on the institutions involved. The documentary presented new testimony, including a friend of Emanuela's who revealed, for the first time, that Emanuela had told her she was being harassed by a high-ranking Vatican cleric just days before she vanished. This revelation, combined with a renewed public interest, finally forced the Vatican's hand. In early 2023, Pope Francis authorized the Vatican's promoter of justice to reopen the case, giving them access to all files and evidence from the past 4 decades. The Italian Parliament has also launched its own new commission of inquiry. After 40 years of whispers, dead ends, and official silence, it seems there is a new, concerted effort to finally solve the mystery. But will the truth ever be revealed? Is it hidden in the dusty archives of a former Cold War spy agency? Is it buried in the unspoken code of silence of the Roman Mafia? Or does it lie in the heart of the Vatican itself? A secret so dark that the institution has guarded it for 4 decades? We do not know. All we know is that a 15-year-old girl went to her music lesson and never came home, leaving behind a heartbroken family and a mystery that continues to haunt one of the world's most powerful and secretive institutions.